You know, I probably shouldn't be drinking whiskey while doing a recording, but it's so good. Ladies, gentlemen, and others, welcome back to another episode of The Rec Center. I'm your host, Morison III, and we have a lot to cover, so let's just get right into it. As I'm sure most of you know by now, the second major of the 2022 CDL season has concluded, and it featured one of the best losers bracket runs of all time. With substitute player Spar joining the lineup in place of Gunless, the LA Guerrillas battled through a grueling losers bracket to beat FaZe in the finals. Even with their impressive run, there were not many people outside of the LAG fan base that were giving them a chance in the grand finals. After getting smacked in the first hardpoint, LAG rallied through, winning the next 4 maps before ultimately winning the series 5-2. This capped off one of the most extraordinary and just unexpected victories that we've seen in Call of Duty in a long time. This was all done as previously mentioned by super sub Spart, who turned heads in more ways than one. Besides showing just how generally nasty he is, he made a lot of headlines when he pulled out the Volk for the first time in CDL history. The gun made its rounds before it was ultimately GA'd by the pros after Major 2, so rip to the Volk, you were great for ending the 2-gun meta for a solid 6 minutes. And as we rapidly approach the Major 3 qualifiers, it really is kind of baffling that LAG were able to pull this major victory out. It was just unexpected, unforeseen. There was not a person in the world who could have possibly predicted LAG were going to win that major. Well, except for one guy who put a bet on a sports book and actually cashed out pretty well. Add in the fact that they got rolled over 3-0'd in their only winner bracket match against the Boston Breach. It seemed almost impossible that they were going to win this event. But despite the odds being stacked against them, LAG has reached the top of the mountain and gave themselves a good chance to qualify for champs later this year. It's going to be incredibly interesting to see what happens with this team going forward, and they certainly cannot be counted out for the rest of the season. It's going to be incredibly interesting to see what happens with this team going forward, especially since they were so inconsistent up until they got to Major 2. Was this just a Cinderella run, or is there more in store for LAG than we think? Even with burning questions regarding their roster, which we'll touch on shortly, it's incredibly hard not to root for this team full of underdogs. Overall, Major 2 was filled with many surprises over the 4-day span, and it was a great event overall, I gotta say. Boston Breach and Florida Mutineers rounded out the top 4, which was kind of surprising, especially with Florida being there, but Boston Breach is still a team I'm still very, 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 very high on. Seattle Surge placed top 6 in the event after first round sweeping Optic, and Optic overall just didn't look very good, especially after their big victory in Major 1. And lastly, the London Royal Ravens, who were expected to make a deep run in this tournament, ended up bowing out pretty early. And if there's one big takeaway that we can come out with Major 2, it's what we've always been saying. There's so much talent in the CDL this year that any team can make a chance for themselves to win it all at the end of the season. Let's be real, it's probably going to be FaZe again. Looking ahead to Major 3, this is going to be the major that really shows us who the true contenders are for champs. Especially since this major is certainly going to be make or break for a lot of the fringe teams that are just on the cusp on qualifying for champs. The LA Thieves currently sit in 6th place with 70 points, and the Subliners are in 11th with 40 points. And for those 2 teams and the 4 teams in between, every single one of them know they're going to need a good placement in one of the last 2 majors to qualify for champs. And Major 3 is going to be the perfect opportunity for any of these teams to separate themselves from the pack and make themselves clear contenders. With Major 3 being held in Toronto, the Ultra are going to have to be that team in front of the home crowd. They need a successful tournament placing in the absolute worst way, and it's such a surprise after a 2nd place finish in Cold War. They just haven't been able to find their feet in Vanguard. And I'm definitely also curious about Thieves specifically because they've had such an up and down year. It's crazy to think that they're one of those fringe teams right now. Through a lot of the early season, they looked like a top 4 roster at least. And now they just look like one of the worst rosters in the league. Definitely going to be looking to see if the role swap between Kenny and Draza will have any effect on the team's performance going forward. As for the top teams, FaZe are going to continue dominating. And just real quick, can we stop pretending like 2nd place finishes are bad? Like, obviously it's not first, but there are people who are legitimately calling FaZe a bad team. They placed 2nd in both majors. They're still a very good team. I saw some crazy takes on Twitter after this major, let me tell you. FaZe will continue their dominating ways, and Optic, on the other hand, will be looking to bounce back after the small hiccup of Major 2. There's definitely still a chance that they're going to be placing at least top 3 this year. And in Major 3, both these teams can certainly make another run for the grand finals and have themselves their rematch they've been waiting for since the first major. In this 4-major year, Major 3 is going to have massive implications for the rest of the season going forward, and it's going to be curious to see which teams are going to come out the hungriest. And now it's time for everybody's favorite time of year. It's Rostermania, everybody. We're not halfway through the 2022 CDL season, and a lot of teams are making changes and shuffling things around in order to make themselves contenders throughout the last half. 2 underperforming teams specifically have been the Minnesota Rocker and the New York Subliners. Following Major 2, both the Rocker and the Subliners have been holding trials in order to try to figure out what the best composition for the roster is going to be going forward. For the Subliners, the roster they decided to try out for right now is Crimsix, Hydra, Kismet, and Paul X. The move was kind of strange with Kismet being added to the lineup because it seemed like even with just the addition of Paul X, that New York were looking loads better than they have been since the beginning of the season. But seems like Neptune was the odd man out. This move was kind of weird because even with the addition of Paul X before Major 2, it seemed that team was already loads better. They definitely played well enough, especially in the last remaining matches of Stage 2, where they were able to secure themselves winners bracket spots for Major 2. With that being said though, it seems like the team performance was not the reason that Neptune got dropped, but rather because there was a falling out with the team. Krim would go on his stream to explain his side of this story and kind of give a big rant about the situation.
Talking all this shit, texting him saying like everything's cool. You know what I mean? Like just play to apply pressure, right? That's all I want you to do. If we're not rotating the hills, that's on me. That's my fucking job. You know? And anyways, the next day, he's just fucking going off on only me when the whole team didn't want to play them. And here's a real can of fucking worms. All right? I'm fucking so sick of this shit, dude. Is that not only did our team not want to play with Travis, but the entire fucking CDL doesn't either. All right? So you can throw me under the bus all you want, bro. But like, let's fucking be real, dude.
With some pretty harsh words said by Krim, it's safe to assume that Nep isn't going to be joining and then getting dropped again in this roster for the rest of the season. For the Rocker, their roster change included the addition of Havoc, who will be replacing Major Maniac for the upcoming stage. After finishing off Cold War strong, the Minnesota Rocker had high hopes for another successful season going into Vanguard. Besides a couple of glimmers here and there, Minnesota never quite found their footing, and a roster change became inevitable. They landed one of the top challengers players in Havoc with the hope that he will help with the pacing issues that they've had in respawn modes recently. Throughout the trials, the coaches believe that the roster of Havoc, Standy, Attach, and Priesta will be the strongest roster going forward. Interestingly enough, Priesta will be the one moving to the main AR, while Attach will stay on the flex. Major Maniac moves to the bench, but it's very likely that his career with the Rocker is over. In a tweet from Major, he expresses disappointment in the team on the decision of benching him for a second time. The decision was bittersweet for the team and fans, as Major has been a fan favorite and one of the best S&D minds in the CDL. Ultimately, a change had to be made, and Major was the odd man out. Minnesota will now look to turn their season around, as they are one of the fringe champs teams who will need a strong Major 3 and 4. And for the LA Gorillas, they're in a super fascinating spot after winning Major 2. With Sparks seemingly staying in the lineup because of Gunless's medical issues, which, by the way, Gunless, I'm hoping for a good recovery, brother. We hope to see you back in the field soon. It's super hard to break up a team who just won a major, but Gunless was arguably one of LAG's best players. He boasted a top 10 KD before going out and has been phenomenal all season. So Gunless in the meantime will be staying on the bench, and you really can't blame LAG for it. It's an unfortunate situation for Gunless, who is just too good of a player to not have a starting spot on a CDL roster. The question remains though, will it be with LAG or will it be with another roster? It's a bizarre situation for sure for LAG, but it's also a good problem to have knowing you have a guy like Gunless as your substitute. Time is running out for the Rocker and Subliners, who look to turn their season around in the next stage, and LAG are going to look to continue their success going forward. Definitely keep an eye on LAT and Toronto, who are likely to have roster changes if they don't come out scorching hot going into stage 3. Both of these teams are definitely capable of achieving something where they're going to have to achieve it real soon because time is officially out. And now moving back home here at the CRL, we have Rostermania of our own. With the third season of Vanguard on the horizon and a record number of pre-made teams signing up this season, it was only natural that there was going to be lots of Rostermania across all divisions. Starting with the CRL Diamond Division, the highest division in the COD Rec League, there were way more roster moves than we could have ever expected. The biggest story of the offseason was likely the fact that it looked like Ekaj, aka Jake, and Gear were set to team up with Fallen, Eggy, Joss, and Urgent. This was confirmed multiple times by the players involved and Jake himself. However, a few minutes after this roster was, quote, finalized, a wild shadow appeared with Scap and recruited Jason Urgent right from under everyone's nose. While the new roster of Shadow, Scap, Jason Urgent with Strider on the bench sounds absolutely stacked, this does leave some questions remaining for the former Vancouver Comets duo. However, just recently it was announced that the OG Vancouver Comets squad is set to return under a new name. The team of Jake, Yair, Nime, and Outages will be returning with a vengeance, following a disappointing end in the playoffs. Going down a spot, it is expected that the Platinum pre-made Atlanta Days squad from the spring season will officially be receiving a Diamond invite. As stated by CRL Intel, the roster suffered only 2 defeats last season, both to the eventual finalists. A map 5 versus your new Green Bay Goats during the regular season, and a reverse sweep versus the Houston Warthogs in the playoffs. The roster is expected to consist of TF3, Royal, Mott, and Spawny. The gold pre-made OGT squad were definitely a team that were turning heads after demolishing so many teams in the playoffs that it was possible that they were going to get a Diamond invite. Despite the fact that they will be playing in Platinum this upcoming season, they're continuing to make a name for themselves after taking the reigning Diamond champions, the Philly Fighters, to a Game 5 in the Primer tournament. In other news, CRL legend and 3-time champion Ian has retired at the end of the spring season, citing age and lack of interest in Call of Duty going forward. This news led to many reactions of support for the career of Ian, with former teammate Crash saying, quote, "He's my longest and best AR duo I've had. Typical career of Optic Eaton for sure." And Nikash C calling him, quote, "the greatest of all time." It is certainly a sad story, but Ian will not be forgotten anytime soon. There's been plenty more stories that have been happening around the league, so if you want to find the latest news for the CRL and the latest on roster updates, follow at Brendan the Nerd on Twitter and at CRL Intel on Twitter. There's some other ESRL news that we got to hit before we end this episode, so let's do that right now. The CRL has announced a record number of signups going into the summer season. This growth allows all divisions, including both subdivisions in silver and gold, to be completely filled with 16 teams. Thank you to everyone who continues to support the CRL and continues to tell their friends about it and engaging with us on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, etc. And we're really looking forward to the summer season, and we hope you are too. Also in the CRL, it was announced that there will be no 4th of July break, as instead, the week of July 10th will be taken off due to the CDL New York Major. It is expected that many of the admins and mods will be at the event, as there will be essentially no way to run production while that many people are away. This just means now that because of the major, the week break will be between week 1 and week 2 of Summer Chumps. And also, I'm one of the people going to New York. So hopefully I get to see some of you guys there. Hopefully I get to see a lot of CRL homies there. I hear there's a lot of people going. And finally, there will be some changes to the Silver North and South formation. Originally, Silver North and South were divided by skill, but that will no longer be the case. Instead, Silver North matches will be played on Wednesday, and Silver South matches will be played on Thursday. The winners of both North and South will face off in a Chumps match to determine the overall Silver winner. The reasoning is that Silver is typically the division that most new CRL members join, and with the influx of new members over the last 2 to 3 seasons, the CRL staff feel that the skill gap between North and South has disappeared due to lack of information on new teams. And let's not forget our Halo friends on the R side of the ESRL. The HRL recently wrapped up their free-for-all series in an exciting 3-game event. While the free-for-all series certainly had a lot of great players throughout the season, it was the top 8 who accumulated enough points to earn a spot in the championship match. And when we get clips like this, you know it's going to be exciting.
In a row because people just keep pushing him, like guys like Paradise, who, you know, he's getting a little aggressive right here. He could easily take out some people, including one of the other kill leaders. Picks up a double kill, and he's 2 behind right now. Make that only 1 behind as he's on 19. Picks up a nasty triple, and he's still hunting.
He's gonna take down Superman too. That's an overkill from Paradise. Let's go. He's down 1 now, and he's just looking for everybody to take down. He gets to punch it as well. He's just looking for anybody, and this guy's gameplay is cracked. So, I mean, you know, if anybody was to get an overkill, I'm not surprised that it's Paradise right now.
As the series progressed, it looked like it was going to be the Paradise and Superman show, as the two were battling neck and neck the entire time. But early on, Superman already made his mark on the series and insanely close Game 1.
Seconds left. That might be all she wrote, but it's 49 to 50 right now. Paradise 50 to 50. Superman gets a 2-piece to get it to 51, and Superman takes the game. CNK, can you believe it?
I don't even know how that's possible. I mean, Superman, I'm not gonna lie, Superman is the GOAT for that.
After Paradise took Game 2, it all came down to Game 3 to decide who would be crowned FFA champion, but it was Superman who made sure it was anything but a contest in the final map.
The future, by the way. I mean, yeah, let's see if someone ever beats that in the future. I mean, there's only 3 seconds left on this lobby, and that's going to call wraps on that. And I mean, Superman is going to be your Halo Rec League FFA champion, and that guy, I mean, he gets it done. That's for sure. I mean, that guy, Oh my gosh.
Congratulations to Supermain as well as all players who made it into the top 8. There's a lot of fun for us to do and the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. So definitely stick around because we're running it back this next season. But that is going to do it for us here at the Rec Center. I definitely want to hear your feedback on how you think the show is going. It's going to be a little while before another one comes out, but that's okay. We got a lot more content in the works. And I promise you're going to like what we're going to show you. So if you're new here, definitely be sure to subscribe to us here on YouTube. Go follow us on Twitch, maybe even sub on Twitch if you're feeling like it. And definitely join our Discord because the community is still growing so much. And we'd be happy to have you come aboard. Also, definitely be sure to check out the Halo Rec League as well. That community has been popping and I'm definitely excited to see what that future holds. But for now, my name is Morison III. I'll see you next time.